Hi. Hoping this is working. It's been a while since I've done this. I wanted to create a video for you guys that missed the December 1st parent meeting. We're going to be sending home the packets that we gave out that night in the homework folders on Monday. And it's a lot of information. And I thought maybe seeing it, how we're using it, what it all means would be helpful to you. So I'm going to try this Google Hangout. This should be able to be accessed through our class dojo. I'll put a link and you guys should be able to watch it, and you can go back and watch it anytime you need to. So I'm going to do the share screen because I have some things that I showed December 1st, some information that was in the packets, and then why we're doing this. So that's not it. Okay. And I'm sorry, it's been a long time since I've done this. Screen share. Okay. All right. All right. So you should be able to see my parent night on here. I'm going to put this in present mode. And we started just having you think about some of the ways that you're already helping your child at home. The books that we send home, any of the writing homework that may come home, stretching those words that come home with the spelling homework. What are you doing already that seems to be successful for your child? And then this is just telling what this is for. So, what we basically covered were the foundational skills that we're teaching in kindergarten and why it's important that we build a really strong foundation. If the kids do not have a very concrete understanding of these basic foundational skills when they go on to first, second, and eventually third grade, and if there are any holes, gaps, or any little cracks about the information that they have, um, they're going to start to kind of crumble, just as you would with a house. You need a solid foundation to build upon. When we start putting more information and giving them more skills and concepts to apply to that foundation, if that foundation isn't strong, it's going to crumble. So we want to make sure that they have a strong letter and sound understanding, understanding how those letters work within a word, um, being able to encode, which is being able to hear and write the letter that is attached to that sound, and then also being able to decode, seeing the letter and being able to associate the sound with that. Encoding is when we're writing, decoding is for when we are reading. I also have a slide that shows the student data. We did just a generalized class standing, and in your individual packets, it lets you know where your child falls within the class dynamic. Just to let you know before we get to the screen, the kids have done phenomenally well. I mean, they are just soaring. So you're going to be really impressed with the data that you see. And then also in the packet are some home learning activities that I'm going to go over on how to use them and what that should look like and sound like, so that you feel comfortable helping your child. And then there's a goal setting. There's also a page. It's in the very back of your packet. If you want to set a goal for your child and send that goal sheet in to me, I'll make a copy. I'll keep it within their portfolio, and then also send you back your original. That way we both know what the expectation is. And I'll be able to send you some assessment information that lets you know, are we on target for meeting that goal, or are we kind of lagging behind, and what can we do to achieve that goal? So the goal for the parent night is to help everyone understand the importance of hearing and recording sounds and words. A lot of kids, when we're first starting to listen for sounds and words, they don't understand that those letters or those sounds have to go in a particular order. So they just say the word over and over and just write down whatever sound happened to stand out to them at that particular time. But what we need to emphasize is that when you are saying a word, that those sounds have to go in a particular order to make the word that you want. If the word is cat, they can't just go cat. Okay, I hear a T, and then go back and say it again. Oh, now I hear a C, and then they hear the A last. And you've got to tell them that that's not going to spell cat. Those are the sounds that are within that word cat, but they need to put them in the particular order. This helps with their writing. It also helps them associate when they go to decode a word within a book or text, that those sounds are going in a particular order. They have to say them in that order and blend them together to come up with the word. You're going to be able to figure out where your child is on this spectrum of these different levels of hearing and recording sounds. You're going to also be able to set the goal for your child. We have these things called Ask Me stickers. They're these bright orange stickers. And the goal that you set for them, once they meet that goal, they'll come home with a little Ask Me sticker, and it'll let you know that, hey, my child has met this goal. Let's set the next goal. Let's keep challenging them. Let's keep pushing them. Um, let's see. And then you're also going to get to see some activities that are going to help your child meet these hearing and recording sound goals that you make. So when we say hearing and recording sounds and words, the kids know it as saying it slow and writing what you hear. We encounter a lot of words that they just don't know how to spell. There are those sight words that they get home every week that they should have firmly in their toolbox. But there are other words that appear in sentences that they want to write or appear within text that they are trying to read that they just don't know. And being able to attach the sound with the letter is going to help them be better writers and better readers. And then also understanding that they have to go in a particular order for it to make a sensible word. So the activities that we have in place are going to help build that foundation of that sequence, those strong letter sound connections, and being able to take that and use it both in writing and reading. Let's see. So at the start of kindergarten, our main focus was, developing that letter and sound knowledge, and then taking that and listening for that sound at the beginning of a word. You may have heard them at home saying, what do you hear at the beginning of the word ball? And they are supposed to isolate that beginning sound and say b, ball, b. It begins with a B. There's spelling homework that went home. It focused on that. But you can tell that the spelling homework we've been sending home has changed greatly. They've moved away from those first sounds, and now they're starting to hear more sounds and words. So that's what our goal is, to go beyond that first sound. The natural progression is to start with just first sound. Then they typically move into hearing the first sound and the ending sound. And then the last thing that they typically get is that middle vowel sound, which is very difficult because those middle vowel sounds change just depending on the spelling patterns. There's the short vowel that all of us have worked really hard to put into place. The A says ah, the E says eh, the I says eh, the O says ah, and the U says uh. But then there are certain instances where the vowels will say their name or the long sound. So the A would say A, the E would say E, the I would say I, the O would say O, and the U would say U. So in being able to understand that those letters can have dual sounds, which is really difficult for them to do. Um, some children have already mastered that, and they can hear those vowel sounds in the middle. We moved on to something called digraphs. Digraphs are letters, two letters that work together to make a brand new sound. Um, for instance, the S and the H. The S does not keep its identity sound. The H does not keep its identity sound. The S and the H work together to make a sh sound. And I tell the kids that's my favorite sound. And so that's the one that is most mastered in the room because I said, what's my favorite sound? And they can do sh, S-H, sh. Other digraphs are the CH. We talk about how that sounds a little bit like a sneeze. Ch. The CH says ch. There's the TH. We talk about how that's the only time that they can stick their tongue out at me, like Thursday and thirsty. We also want them to understand that those digraphs don't just occur at the beginning of words, they also occur at the end of words as well. So for the SH, it would be fish is at the end. For the TH, with is at the end. And for the CH, much is at the end. So just being able to attach that sound to those two letters working together to make that sound. Other children in the classroom have mastered the digraphs, so we decided to move them on to something called affricates. These are consonant blends that are typically misheard. So one, for example, would be the T and the R. With blends, the letters keep their own identity of sound. So the T keeps its sound and the R keeps its sound. But the way that we pronounce the word, it blends together. That tr and when the kids are stretching, like for the word tree, they say tree. And all they hear is that tr. And it's to them, it sounds like the CH sound. So we want them to get a little bit of practice at saying the words and listening to make sure that their mouth is pronouncing the letters sounds the right way, and that way they can attach the right letters to those sounds. So here's the class data that I was talking about. This red line here, this is the cutoff. So if they are below the red line, so if they are in all sounds and words or digraphs, then these children would be considered at or above the grade level expectation at this point in the year. If they are above this red line, that means they're not hearing any sounds and words, or they're only hearing first sounds, or they're only hearing middle sounds in words. Then that is telling you that they have a little bit of work to do, that we need to get them up to the at least hearing all the sounds in the words. So that is where we're moving toward. Anything above that at this point in the year, that would be above, and that means we're challenging them and trying to enrich and improve those foundational skills so that they'll be able to move on to some higher level thinking. So I'm pretty impressed with this class data. If you look, the zero sounds, we only have one child that is not hearing any sounds in words. Then we have just one child who is very good at hearing the first sounds in words, but it's working towards those ending sounds. And so just a little bit of struggle with that. We have no children in the just hearing the middle sounds in words. So they're hearing the first sounds, but they've moved on to hearing all three sounds in the words. That means the beginning, the middle, and the end. So that's exactly where they need to be. They're right on target with the natural progression of where we should be at this point in the year. And then we've even got some kids that have mastered those digraphs. They can hear that sh, and that th, and they are attaching the right letters into the right positions of the word for those digraphs. So based on this data, your child has been put into a particular group that is going to take them to the next level. So if your child has mastered all the sounds and words, their next step is to work in digraphs. If your child has mastered digraphs, then their next step is going to be to move into affricates, which aren't on this data sheet because nobody had mastered affricates. So this is just the mastery data. So let's move forward. So hearing and recording sounds in sequence. Let me escape this and take you into the notebook file I have. I'm not seeing my notebook file. Hang on. I want this to work so you can be able to see this. There it is. All right, so you should be able to see my notebook file. Should be a picture of a pig. So in your little packet, just depending on where you are, I'm just going to start at the lowest level just so that everybody gets their level covered. So we only had 2 children that were at this level. So if you're watching us and your child was either at the 0 sounds or just the first sounds, this is for you. But this will be a good way for you to see how to use the sound boxes for everybody. These are called sound boxes. They are not letter boxes. And you're going to see as we move through and the words get a little bit more complicated, why they are sounds and not letters. This is a picture of a pig. So what we would do, we just show them the picture and we would have them say the word. So you show the picture to your child and you'd say, what is this? They would say pig. Now they're going to say it slow and push what they hear. We start with pushing and then we'll eventually write what we hear. So you would take some type of manipulative. You can take a bean, you can take an M&M, Skittle, just something that they can move small into those boxes that lets them connect that movement with that sound. And they're going to push the word pig. So we're going to say it nice and slow as we push. Egg, and it's not working. Egg, sorry. Egg, pig. Then they would take their some type of writing. You can write on a piece of paper. You can write put this in a plastic page protector and they can write it. Or I even have some little letter tiles that you could cut out and have them push the letters into the boxes. But they would go puh, egg, pig. And that lets them attach the letter with the sound. So the first thing we did is we said those sounds. Then they're internalizing in their little head what they've said. Now it's time to actually encode or write what they have said. Let's go on to the next one. This would be dog. So if they pushed the word dog, they would say d. ah, g. Then they would write d, og. And I'm not going to write it. I'm trying to do this with the mouse, and it's not as easy. Let's move on to the next one. So those two were the very simple 3 sound where the children would be practicing hearing the beginning and the ending sound. This one is going to be digraphs. This was the best picture we could get. This is shop. So we would get them to say shop. Now, you hear that digraph at the very beginning of this word. Shh. Remember that that's the 2 letters making the brand new sound, that S and that H. So I'm going to push sh, ah. Now we'll write this. This is where it makes sense that these are not letter boxes, they are sound boxes. So that sh is the S and the H together. They don't keep their own sound. They work together. So that's why the S and the H are in that first box. Sh, ah. I'm sorry, I'm doing this with the mouse. It's not too bad. So there's their word, shop. And that SH, remember, it's a sound. That's why those 2 letters are going in that first box together, because they are making a brand new sound. Let's move on to this one. This would be the digraph at the end of the word. So this word is fish. If you hear that sh at the end, so you would push it and say f, sh. Then their job is to write it, write the sounds. F, and remember that sh is a sound, so the sh goes together at the end because SH makes a sound. Sh. Okay. So those would be our digraph friends. Then these are the children will have, these are called affricates. These are the consonant blends that are often confused. So this is a picture of drip. Remember when the kids are stretching, these are the ones that they get often confused. So typically when they hear a DR together and they say it fast, drip, it sounds like there's a J at the beginning, and they will write JR instead of DR. So we've got to get them to slow down and say the word nice and slow. This is the word drip. Now, the D and the R are a blend. That means that they are keeping their own individual sounds. They are not coming together to make a brand new sound. They keep their own individuality. So the D will get its own box and the R will get its own box. And you will push the word drip like this. D, R, I, P, drip. And when they go to write it, those letters will be in their own boxes. Drip. Drip. Hope that makes a little bit of sense. I'll do one more. And this is a train. They're going to say that word train nice and slow. Watch what we do. Train. Typically, when they hear that TR at the beginning, train, it sounds like a CH, but we're making them slow down and say those sounds nice and slow to make it come out the right way. Train. Now, here comes the tricky part when they go to write it. I know and you know how to spell the word train correctly. But developmentally, these kids, they're only 5 and 6, they do not have that understanding of vowel teams or that AI that's in the middle of train. So your child is only going to put that A there. Don't discourage that. Let them put that A. You're letting them use what they know. You'll hear them say, I'm trusting my brain. So, this is their understanding of how these letters and sounds work within words. They haven't moved up to that next level that you and I have of vowel teams and understanding long vowel patterns. So they are going to just simply put the A. Now, we have talked a little bit about, it's called the bossy E. We talk in our room that he's on the end of words and he doesn't make a sound, but boy, is he bossing that vowel in the middle of the word and making it say its name. So we call him the bossy E. So that may end up on the end of your words. Once they learn that bossy E, you'll see silent E's on the end of almost every single word. So they learn a skill and they like overuse it. So you can let that E being on the end, that's fine, but do not correct their A and make them change it to an AI, or if it's like the word beat, making that E get changed into an EA. You know, and I know what's right, but they have to trust their brain. Now, if it's something off the wall letter that they're sticking in the middle of the words, then by all means, you say, hold up. You need to go back and check that. If they're putting an X and there is no X sound anywhere in that word or can even be remotely close to it, then yes, stop them and have them go back and listen more carefully. But if it is just putting an A for an AI or an E for an EA, let that go. If it is close, leave it there. So if they were going to write the word train, that they're saying nice and slow, the T would get its own box. A, N. Now that may be how they write it, and that's fine. Or they may stick this little guy on the end, and that's fine too. But just let them do their thing. Only correct when it's like totally completely off the wall and could never in a million years be correct. All right. So let's stop that one. Okay. So now I wanted to kind of pull up some of the things that are inside of your packet. If you're watching this after you get your packet, then you can look through it with me, or if you're watching this before, you can just kind of look and know what's going to come to you. Let's see. Get everything. I got 50 screens pulled up here. I'm sorry. Let's look, do a screen share again, and let's go into this one, see if that works. Yep. Well, that's not the one I wanted. Thank you for being patient. Oop. What's this do? Okay. I want this. That'll pull up like this. Okay. Let's see if that gives me what I want now. Sorry, gotta love technology. No, that's not what I wanted either. Oh, I want it to work. So now I can go back here. Okay, so this is just my Google page, and it's got all the files that we need. And so let's start with the mastery list. That's at the very top of your packet. And so the mastery list looks like this. It'll have your child's name on it, and then it'll have a check beside all of the different things that your child has mastered. So if you may have a check beside they've mastered beginning sounds, they've mastered ending sounds, they've mastered middle sounds, they've mastered being able to do beginning, middle, and ending sounds. But maybe they don't have a check beside of digraphs. Um, They've mastered affricate blends. They've mastered nasal blends, which I'll go into more at the end of this session. But these are the different levels. So wherever your check is last, it's the next level that you'll be working on. So if you've mastered beginning, middle, and end, you're going to be moving on to digraphs. Pull that down. The next thing would be that one. Your directions for it's called Elkonin boxes, but those are fancy word for sound boxes. So if your child is working on just hearing beginning, middle, and ending sounds, which we had 2 friends working on that, this is explaining, just like I did in the little notebook file, how that works. So it's going to help your child be able to read and write words they've not learned how to spell yet. They are segmenting, which means they're breaking it apart in a visual model. There's going to be a box for each sound, but not each letter, which we talked about as well. And you're going to say the word slowly and eventually write what you hear. So here's your little questioning techniques. Say the word slowly. What do you hear? What letter makes that sound? Now, where does that letter go? You're making the link to that linking chart that we use. I know at the beginning of the year, or it was at your dials, the screeners for when you first started kindergarten. They gave you a little packet that has the linking chart. And I think we've sent one home as well at the beginning of the year. So now is the time, if your child is struggling a little bit with it, make sure you're bringing that out so they can make that connection from the letter to the linking chart, because that little picture also helps them connect that sound. So they're pushing, saying, and hearing. And then you're asking the questions. What do you hear at the beginning? What do you hear at the end? And what do you hear at the middle? And that's just the natural progression that we talked about earlier on in this little presentation. So those are the kids listening for beginning, middle, and ending sounds. The next step, if you've mastered that, you will be into the digraphs. Those are the ones where the 2 letters are working together to make a brand new sound. And so you're using the sound boxes. Remember, again, they are sound boxes, not letter boxes. And so here is the word sheep. So you would push and say sh, eep. Now your friends, or your kids, sorry, we say friends a lot in the classroom. Your kids are probably going to understand that it has that really strong E sound, and we've talked about how it's 2 E's makes that really strong E sound. So they may put the 2 E's within that one middle box, and that's fine because that E is a sound. So the first box, there will be a sh, SH. The middle box, they may or may not put 2 E's, E, and then P at the end. And then there are a list of words that go with stretching these digraphs. There's probably about 3 or 4 pages using those 3 main digraphs that we have taught, the SH, the CH, and the TH. And they're at the beginning and the ends of words. And so you would do the same thing. You use some type of manipulative bean, M&M, Skittle, just something, coin, to move into the boxes and saying it slow and writing what you hear. Then for the next group, that's going to be the affricate. So here are the affricate directions. Those are those DR and TR words. It kind of explains why these are in your packet. Now, you're not going to have these in your packet if you're still trying to master beginning, middle, and end sounds. So they're working their way towards this, but they're not close to that yet. What we did is we put their level that need to be on at plus the next level. So you've got one level plus the next step. So these affricate mastery skills, these children have mastered beginning, middle, and ending sounds and digraphs, and now they're working on affricates. So those are those blends that tr, and when they say it quickly like tree, they hear a ch typically. So you want them to slow down, saying those sounds nice and slow. Tr, e. Let's see. So there is a list of words, just like the digraphs. And I forgot to mention this with the digraphs. There's a little number beside of your word that you're going to be pushing. And we thought it might be helpful for you to know how many sounds are actually in that word. So like the word trip, it would have t, ip. It happens to match the number of letters, but sometimes that doesn't, that's not the case. So like, here's one, the word trace that is here. This is how you would push the word trace. Trace. You don't hear that E at the end, and they're probably not going to put that E at the end. There may be a couple that stick it on the end because they know that the E is bossing the A and telling it to say its name. And I know for a fact, I don't think anyone is going to turn that that into a C. They're going to make an S because that's the connection they make it to. So if they push it and put it in the boxes as TRAS, that is fine, or TRASE, that is fine, because that is what they are hearing. Here's another one, treat. It's got a vowel team here in the middle, that EA. They're not going to hear that A. They may put two E's, or they may just simply put one E in the middle. They may put one E in the middle and one at the end that's a bossy E. It just depends. So when they push it, it should sound like this. T, E, t. And those are 4 sounds. We don't hear that A. I'm trying to look and see if there's anything else in here. Then it goes into the DRs, drain. There's another vowel team that A and I, they will not hear the I. So when they push it, they're going to say D, A, N. They may put an E at the end. It's just depending on where they are as far as their understanding about that silent E, because really typically they're not there yet. We just talked about it because I think there's a name in our room that we used that as an example of letters and words not following a typical spelling pattern that they know. Here's a couple of more. Drew. They're probably going to spell it DRU because they don't know about that EW making that U sound. So D or U. It may even be 2 O's. It's just what they hear. But those 2 O's would make that U sound that they're familiar with. Drape and drone. They're not hearing that silent E. Dream. They're not hearing the A. They only hear the E. Dress, they probably will not hear 2 S's at the end. They'll only hear 1 S. So just kind of pushing that and looking at the guide of how many sounds that you're supposed to have. Then the last, I can find it, are the nasal sounds. And before I get into this, I knew in the affricate blends, we also put in and I don't have it saved onto this Google Drive because it's in a spelling Words Their Way book, we used a word sort that used both that TR and that CH as your headers of how you sort words, and so that they can get used to saying the word nice and slow, feeling the difference in their mouth, listening for the individual sounds as they stretch the word so they can sort it in the right way. We wanted to give them some kind of point of reference to know what they're listening for. When you do it in isolation, they're like, yeah, I got it. But if you're making them truly listen and saying it slow, they're really applying those skills that we want them to get from these activities. So there is a word sort that goes with that. With this one, these would be for our friends that are currently going to be working on affricate blends. Once they master that, they're going to go into something called the nasal sounds. It's nasal consonantal. I can't say the word, so I just say nasal sounds. It's words that have that ng at the end, so like sing, or words like camp or jump. They're leaving out that M and that typically that N. They're just hearing that ending sound because it's nasally. So they're going to have a list of words that they're going to be pushing and listening. The key is saying it nice and slow, so they're hearing each individual sound. There's also a word sort attached to this one as well, so they can see and hear and listen and feel it in their mouth as they say the words. Um, so then here's a couple of things that are going to be in here. We gave you the actual Elkonin boxes or sound boxes. These are the ones that you will use. This is what we typically use in our word work groups and in guided reading. So depending on the number that's beside that word that you're going to have them stretch, they'd either, if it was 4 sounds, they would use this one. If it were 3 sounds, then you'd use the 3 boxes. It's just typically whichever one. You can cut them apart and use them individually, or you can leave them on a full sheet and have them determine which sound boxes they need to use, how many sounds they hear in the word, and then they can push the manipulatives into those sound boxes. I briefly mentioned about the letter tiles. These are the letter tiles that you can use instead of maybe having them write it. You can give them these letter tiles out there and they can push the letters into the word or the sound boxes. So if the word was cat and you cut these out, and that way they're spread out, they can individually manipulate. You would push the C, the A, and the T into the sound boxes. Or if the word was camp, you would push the C, the A, the M, and the P into the sound boxes. So just gives them a different different thing to use instead of always writing it all the time. They enjoy using our magnetic letters. We couldn't afford to buy everybody a set of their own magnetic letters, but this was just a quick little way for them to get the same effect that we use in the classroom. And the last thing that should be in your packet is the goal setting sheet. This is what I talked about at the very beginning of this presentation. Based on where your child is, so looking at that mastery list that's at the very beginning of your packet, looking to see what they've mastered, and then what is the next step. You're going to look at that next step. If they have mastered beginning, middle, and end, so your next step is going to be digraphs. And you want to set a realistic goal. We've worked with digraphs a little bit. Like I said, SH seems to be the simplest and most mastered in the room, but that CH and that TH are still a little foreign to them right now. So we need some extra help and a little bit more time practicing with those. I noticed that when we took the assessment, and the assessment that we gave is also inside of your packet, you can look and see what their confusion was with the digraphs. If it were a CH sound, they would put SH. So they know that that it's a digraph and it's two letters making another sound, but just knowing which one. Is it SH? Is it CH? They were confusing the two. And I even had a couple of people confusing and putting that TH in there as well. So they really need to concentrate on what their mouth is doing when they're saying these sounds. I think a realistic time frame for you and I to be working on these goals is a month, 4 to 6 weeks. I think that's very realistic. And you are looking for 80%. 80% is mastery. That is if they are trying to hear 15 sounds and they hear 12. I'm pretty sure that is your 80%. Let me just double check that. Yeah, if they get 12 out of 15 sounds in a word, that's your 80%. So if we gave them 15 digraph words and they got 12 out of those 15 digraphs and they could always hear it, whether it's at the beginning or the end, and they can do it 12 out of 15 times, then they have 80% mastery, and we would move them up to the next level. Their spelling homework that they bring home in that notebook is going to reflect what it is that they're actually working on. And so you're going to see looking on Fridays for their spelling assessment to see how did they do. So it's really important that you look at those assessments that come home to see what's going on, what are they missing, how can I um, um, help to clear up any confusion. So when you're writing, you're going to write your student's name right here. You're going to write your name right here. And then in the goal portion, you would say, if you're going to be working on digraphs, I'll just throw out a name, Fred will have 80% accuracy on SH, TH, and CH digraphs within a 4 to 6 week period. And we'll make a copy after you send this back in to me. I'll make a copy for my files, send it back home for you, and then within that time frame, if they meet the goal before the 4 to 6 weeks, hey, that's great. We'll move them on up, bump them up to the next level. I don't like to make a child just sit there and do it for the sake of doing it. I'm constantly going back and assessing and changing and making my observations and saying, hey, this isn't working, or wow, you have just done phenomenally well. I want to bump you up to the next level. The kids will tell you my literacy groups are constantly changing. The spelling groups are changing. My reading groups are changing. It makes it a difficult job as far as having to um, move them around so that everybody's covered and all the different literacy stations are covered. But it's what's best for the children and to keep them moving forward. I mentioned in the December 1st meeting that it's so important that we build those strong foundational skills, because in first grade, they're going to be doing a lot of building on these foundations. So if they're not strong now, it's going to start to crumble into first grade. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this presentation. If you have any questions or concerns, constantly, I'm on Dojo. I'm constantly checking email. Just let me know. That's what I'm here for. You are not bothering me. No question is a silly question, so don't ever think that. Ask away. I do not mind it at all. This is a kind of a different concept to come across and know, are you really doing something that's helping your child, or are you confusing them? So just let me know. I'll help you get through this. I really appreciate everything that all the parents have done in the classroom. The amount of support that you give at home is translating into their schoolwork. I was bragging on the kids Thursday night. This is a fabulous group of kids. They are picking things up quicker than any class I've ever had. So if that is completely due to the teamwork that we have going on, the work you're doing at home with them, the work that we're doing here at school, and the children, their motivation to learn, because these kids are so motivated. They're constantly telling me that, I'm getting so big and I'm getting so smart. We throw away around that word genius. I tell them they're all geniuses. And I want to keep that motivation and I want to keep that excitement and engagement going on throughout the rest of the year. We're got a couple of weeks left before we get out for our winter break, and then when we come back in January, we're going to start having the reading teachers pull for their literacy assessment. So the kids have never met these ladies before because they've been busy in other classrooms. So they will pull the kids, they'll give them a book that they've never seen before, and they're looking to see if they are able to use the reading strategies that we've been working on and solve or decode unknown words within a text. And they're also going to be asked comprehension questions. Do you understand what you just read? Sometimes that's a good thing for the kids, and then sometimes they've just been calling words and they really haven't paid attention to what the words are trying, the story it's trying to get across. So as your children bring home reading books, just work on, hey, what happened in the story? What happened in the beginning? What happened in the middle? What happened at the end? If it's a more complicated story, get them to say, hey, why did she do that? Or why did that dog do that? Get them to think about and use their own reasoning skills to find out why some of the characters did what they did in the story. Um, if you are at some of the higher levels, like E's and F's, you've been bringing home a comprehension question. At the level F, they will be asked to read their own comprehension question and answer a comprehension question completely on their own. They cannot have help from the teacher. So that's why we've been pushing that. If they cannot read the question and answer it on their own, then that's going to push them back a level. Yes, they may be able to read that level F or G, but the written comprehension portion may be what sends them back. So they're still answering oral questions and they will be asked to answer 2 written comprehension questions as well. So building up that stamina, that's why we've been writing so much. Your kids may have come home and said, oh my goodness, all we do is write. That's why I'm building up their stamina. So when they get to that assessment, they're able to handle the workload that's being thrown at them. If you have any questions or concerns, again, door's always open, email's always checked, dojo's always checked. Let me know. And thank you again for watching this. I hope it was helpful. If you weren't able to come Thursday night, I totally understand. It's busy, crazy schedule, but I hope this helps explain what's coming home to you. Thank you so much.